So, Lawrie, welcome to FrightFest again. And what brings you here this time?
This time at Glasgow FrightFest, we're proud to be sharing our latest horror movie, a gothic epic.
And it's called?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's several pronunciations for this one. We're going to call it AUTOMATA.
It's your most ambitious project yet.
Yep.
Your biggest budget,
Yep.
biggest cast,
Yep.
pretty much biggest everything. So tell us a bit about it.
One of the greatest things about our latest film, AUTOMATA, is that this is the production in which most of our extras have died in the making of. So it's a good measure of the epic quality of the story. Well, as you know, Gothic horror has been an inspiration for us. You know, classic films produced by Hammer, American International Pictures with Roger Corman and Vincent Price. And we've been trying to find a way to bring the spirit of those films back in a way that resonates with modern audiences. And so this, being our most ambitious film, has this Gothic character, the locations, the historical story that mixes with a present story. It has scenes set in the 18th century with, you know, like hundreds of soldier extras, aristocrats, all this scale still being produced at a modest production budget by a film company based in Fife, far removed from Hollywood. But we're trying to do something special, and I think this film is probably, well, I think it's our best yet.
What do you think you've actually achieved in it? What have you learned as you've gone along that makes this into what it is?
Well, Automata has taught us that you need not limit the scale of your vision or ambition based on the resources you have, and that a filmmaker shouldn't be afraid to invite the audience to contribute their imagination in filling the gaps that you might not quite reach, which is something that is clear with classic horror Gothic films produced in the 60s and 70s. They didn't have massive budgets. The sets might sometimes be a bit flimsy, but the audience could make the jump because the storytelling was there and the characters were there. And at a time at the moment where films are split between the slickness of minimalist films like A24 type stuff or slick roller coaster rides like kind of PG-13 Blumhouse, we're trying to fill in this gap of Gothic horror that isn't caring about so much the slickness or the postmodernism, but is rooted in traditional horror elements. Like we had Roger Corman endorse the film and our studio on the principle of what we were trying to do, and it's like, great, but you know, Roger, you're an older fella. Is there going to be guys like you in their 20s or 30s that might be interested in what we're doing? And it seems like there is. And certainly the support of FrightFest for this vision, this ambition to try and bring this aspect of horror back, it means the world to us. And if it wasn't for FrightFest and people like yourself, Ian, then a whole strand of horror would be unknown, wouldn't be exhibited. And so in this sense, you know, you're contributing as much as ourselves to trying to resurrect this aspect of horror.
Well, you know, we wouldn't do it. We do it because we love it, the genre as well. Now, tell us a bit about the cast.
Well, it's almost like a repertory theatre company with our films. We tend to have a lot of our same players back time and time again. So Jamie Scott Gordon plays the expert that has been hired to spend 1 week alone with the doll to authenticate it. And he's appeared in our films Lord of Tears, The Unkindness of Ravens, and The Black Gloves, and several of my cousin's cell phone videos that you don't want to watch. Those are not meant for public consumption. We also have Alexandra Nicole Hume, who's in Lord of Tears and The Black Gloves. She does a remarkable performance as this clockwork creation, as well as the muse, the girl that inspired it hundreds of years before. We have a new actress, a young lassie called Victoria Lucy, and she does great. It was a challenging role, you know, playing the stepdaughter of the art expert in a film that takes inspiration from Lolita. It's going to take you into subversive places where nuance and complexity is important to the performance, and she manages to capture that despite being a young gubbin. She does.
You might need to translate that for some of our international audiences.
That's right. For the international audience, that means as a young lady.
Tell us a bit, because you've got your studio in Kirkcaldy on Hollywood, or
Aye.
Kirkcaldy Wood.
Kirkcaldy Wood.
Hex Studios. Tell us what you're trying to do there.
As a filmmaker, one of the things that does not interest me the most, is the idea of being seen as an auteur or an individual artist. Those are not the things that interest me or inspire me.
That's interesting, because that's what people see you as that.
Yeah, and it's flattering that they do, but what excites me the most and what inspired me the most as well to get into film was to create something that might, with all humility, be added at the very end of a long list of legendary horror production houses. So, for example, when I think of the Hammer films, or the AIP films, or Amicus, they have a nostalgic quality. There's something quite beautiful about what they created, what they contributed to me growing up. And I think that if we could create a horror name for our studio that could come at the end of a list like that, that will have a stable of productions, not just directed by myself, but by other directors as well, that are telling stories that go against the fleeting, ephemeral pop culture of the moment, that isn't chasing the latest hashtag campaign, but is telling stories that are designed to stand the test of time, that can be enjoyed 10 years from now, regardless of whether it was the concern of a celebrity tweeting it 6 months before. That's my interest, and that legacy is so much more important than any personal vanity.